Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. The title is How Can You Be It If You Still Want It? And so I would like to speak about the eyes, trying to find the eyes. This notion of trying to see the seer. Okay. We are creatures that have developed over a long period of time. Because we have bodies, we consider the notion of individualism. Because we look in the mirror and we see something, the center of intelligence is around things. Everything is centered around how stuff is in position. I would say one of the most important skills in this life is comprehending location. And when we comprehend location existentially, that means you're learning the names of your universal sector and the phenomenology in it. But if we were to wonder about the location of the viewer, of the mind is not an object. So what is its location if it has no form? Therefore, a formless location. And there is no such thing. Hence the term non-local. So when the eyes or the view, the conscious sight, tries to see how it's conscious of the sight, it finds an inseparability between attention and where the attention is. I say right now that the world is in my attention. But from another angle, I am the world paying attention to itself. I am a natural expression noticing nature. And what I'm trying to say is there's an inseparability between attention and its content, between mind and matter. There is no mind over matter. Do you know? They are simultaneous. They're codependent. I can't perceive I'm an object unless there's this space for subjective observance. And I can't see I'm a subject if I don't have an immediate object as a reference point. So we need a body to wonder about a mind, and we need to stabilize in the activity of the mind to wonder if there is something more than the mind. The difference between human beings and everything else is that we are an object that notices itself. We know we are an object. This iced tea bottle in front of me, it doesn't know it's an object. So what it is we are that strange part of existence that somehow can experience itself, hence the term knowing. What we know is really what the inner realms, it's an inseparable moment between the inner realms and outer realms. That means imagine you're a person who you know where the key to a car is, to some person's car. You know, now that person's looking for their car keys. The moment they say, "Has anyone seen my car keys?" Literally, the person who knows, in their inner realms, they can locate the car key. They know where the car key is, for example, on the kitchen table. You know? But in the outer realms, it synchronizes. So when there is an accuracy of what is going on behind our eyes with what is going on in front of our eyes, that is, I would say, accurate knowing. Or that is reality. What that means is we think there's just one world. We think we are open our eyes in one world. But what if we are in two worlds? Just like we have two eyes, we have an object-based sight and a subject-based sight. Now the subject-based sight, two eyes that see the same, that means, I mean, this is just a truth of the eyes, that if, let's say you're a goalkeeper for a soccer game, and a football game. And so what's going on is you cover your eyes. And when you cover, let's say you cover your right eye, and if there was a penalty kick, you could even attempt to jump and grab the ball, but you are missing degrees of the moment. So there's imbalance. So if somebody starts running with one eye closed, they can't run properly. They can't run straight. So we need both eyes to run straight, and perhaps we need an objective body and a subjective mind to notice that there is an unknown witnessing soul. As if those are the preconditions. It's like, what do I need to know I'm a soul? You need a body? Okay, I got that. All right. You need a mind? I hope I got that. And then we come to the soul, and we're like, okay, when the person sees the inseparability of the mind and body, the whole moment is rendered as one experiential event. That means the person says, like, they have a heart, they have lungs, they have different organs, they have a brain, but these organs are in one moment being one body. And so it's as if there is an angle of seeing ourselves as an object, an angle of seeing ourselves as a subject, yet these are just classifications, and the whole thing is kept as space. It's as if we say the universe is huge, but have we noticed the universe is nothing? The universe doesn't have walls at the end of it. It isn't like we reach the edge of the universe and, oh my God, it's glass. Who knew? At the edge of the universe, there's... Imagine we reach the edge of the universe and we're like, no way, it's a mirror. We're in a mirror. Imagine we're in a giant cubic mirror and we think we can't see the end of the universe, the edge of the universe. What I'm trying to say is the body of the universe is made of space. And there was this idea that I would say it came to me from a sort of theological contemplation. I was wondering how in Abrahamic religions, certain monotheistic traditions, just generally monotheistic traditions, there's this notion that man was created by God and man made a mistake and man fell to earth. Man was in heaven, was in some higher state of knowing, and then fell to earth. Now, this is from a theological standpoint I'm looking at this. Now, here's the question. This is Mr. Within's question from all theologians in the world. God made man. We are considering God was in heaven before God made man. We are considering that there was a fall from heaven. But here's the question. Where did God, or the creator archetype, create the world? That means, where is earth? Where is hell? Where were they made? Where? That means from any person who's religious, just to wonder, where is earth? And you see, it's as if, I would say, We have never left the original place. Man never fell. Man fell to himself. What I mean is that this is the logic. And guys, the whole point of a theological perspective is that one is treating as if the religious narrative, if it was valid, does it make sense or not? If it was real, the wonder is there. So I would say the idea is that there has been no other location than heaven. We are simulated in paradise, poetically, because there is no explanation of where is earth. That means, where did God make earth? This question is so heavy. So from the religious narrative, it's as if there is no people here. The soul is from God, is a mystery of God, and so God is within everybody, and God is returning to God. As a bewildered man who feels there is crossroads to creation and destruction. Personally, I feel language cannot contain truth, and simply because we're experiential beings, that means no language can contain, can, no amount of words can define an event, really. Like the actuality of an event, kind of thinking like a person's biography. That person's biography, let's say there's certain milestones in the person's life written in the biography, but who that person was, how many moments, and how in every second their state of mind changed and all that. The words are not enough. The letters in the alphabet are not enough for truth to be real through subjective being. There's a man named Anmalai Swami. I heard a quote from him which was very interesting. He says the eyes can't see the eyes. Your eyes can't see themselves. They see everything else. Everything else is in your sight, but the seer cannot see the seer. It becomes a paradox of duality. That means through dualism, self cannot see self. Self can only see other, or define itself based on other. I feel in the evolution of skill, at least. Let's say you're a person who wants to master a skill. And when I say master, not a mastery through dominant intent, not a mastery of taking, a mastery that reaches a point where if things are taken or given, there is an undisturbed clarity. That is really what we seek in this life, an unconditional attention or presence. Attention and presence tend to be the same, really. The person is present because they are conscious. Some say you need 10,000 hours. Anything you do for 10,000 hours, the person attains mastery of. If the person, for example, writes a sentence every day, and let's say a sentence, the person, let's say, has an inspiration to write, and so every day the person writes one original sentence. Imagine after 10,000 days of writing different sentences, you would feel a freedom. So anything there is persistence and effort, over time, there is an accumulation of familiarity with the system. And that familiarity is what sets your skill. What does that mean? That means if somebody has practiced with the violin, you suddenly give him like the drums, the person's like, what do you want me to do? I can't, they don't have the mastery. But because they have been acquainted with a sort of familiar system, the moment they enter that familiar system, they're able. So let's say a person wants to be a Shaolin monk. Let's say you decide to be a Shaolin monk tomorrow when you wake up, or to have Shaolin monk work ethic. Let's say by wanting to be a Shaolin monk, let's say you're a young kid and you're like, I want to be a Shaolin monk. By wanting to be a Shaolin monk, there still shows as if there isn't the certainty that you are one. That's the whole deal. When the person wants to be something, that's a sure sign that the person is not it. I'll tell you an example. Anything a person wants, you can immediately know that that's what they don't have. Their psychology doesn't have it. Because wanting something, then working without expectation towards something are different things. Wanting something means that your inner realm expects something from the outer realms. But if the person sees the outer realms And let's say, even if you have to want something, let's say you make the argument you have to have some target. Some bullseye to aim at. Okay. Oh, guys, I hope. Um, okay, whatever, let's go. I imagine I look at the window and I'm like, keep it down, Thor. Guys, I don't know if the people can hear it, but there's lightning literally outside. So if the person wants to be a Shaolin monk, they don't know themselves, they don't have the confidence of being it, you know? But if the person has done the work and knows that they are something, that means master is really working with the complex until it becomes simple. You fearlessly aim at such complexity that if over time it has no choice. Either the complexity simplifies or the complexity wins and you stay simple. A lot of human speech is unconscious. A lot of people don't realize their speech. I'll say this for myself personally. I have listened to some of my talks where it's as if when I listened to it, I had another thought I wanted to say after that thought, but it was left in the inner realms, and I hadn't vocalized it, and I had moved past. You know, so we can even say if the person wants something in the future, if their attention is more on what they want than how they can uh, find what they want or attain what they want, it's a waste of time. It's like buying in your own mind's advertising. You know, when it comes down to results in the outer realms, it's just Sadhguru, the sage, he said it very nice. He said, it's not about doing what feels good, only. It's about doing the right thing. That means it's like the person. Imagine there's like a fire, and you want to get rid of the fire, and the person's like, "I feel like throwing firewood. I think that's the right thing to throw in the fire." It's like it's not enough just the intuitive feeling. There requires to also have there to notice what the correct thing is. You know. And isn't it strange? I don't know. People uh, uh, in the chat section, they can share if they like, if they've experienced this. But sometimes in life, when you really want something, it's as if deep down you know you don't deserve it. That's why you really want it. Because in all the things that the person actually has, they don't think about it. That means it's like when you go to a store and you're thirsty, you see, for example, an iced tea bottle, and you're like, okay, you buy the iced tea bottle. But after you have the iced tea bottle, your attention isn't on the iced tea bottle. What does that mean? That means if the person, for example, wanted to be a great violinist, they should think after they were a great violinist, what would they do? And if they do that, they would instantly become a great violinist. That means the whole issue is people have been thinking, trying to be one step ahead. That is nonsense. Never be one step ahead. Be so many steps ahead that if you attempted 10 steps ahead, which was, imagine your max, You know, you would at least have 3 steps instantly done. Do you know? So the whole thing is noticing how much effort is required to surpass the first step. An example would be when I thought about like creating a YouTube project where I'm giving 10,000 talks in it. I was like, that technically should mean that giving a talk should be super simple for me if I want to give that many. So the scale of the project made me instantly comfortable with what if I had seen as one step, like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, try to give one talk. Then it's like the person becomes overwhelmed. Not overwhelmed, they become limited. That means sometimes in life, it's like if the person is good at handling one problem, then they can handle a bunch of problems at the same time. Do you know? So let us say we have uh, singular problem solvers and multidimensional problem solvers. Multidimensional problem solvers have a taste of a singular solution from one dimension of their life. That means back in the day, they asked the blacksmith, "What god do you worship?" And the blacksmith was like, "How dare you disrespect Thor?" You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I'm saying it's one of those things where what you do is the image you see things through. Now, mastery, I just noticed something incredible, guys. The word mastery and mystery have just an A different. What I mean is the letter A and Y. Isn't that incredible? Mystery and mastery. They're technically the same word. The A becomes a Y. It's you can't figure it out. The Y becomes an A. You have found everything. You have figured everything out. So we can say mystery and mastery are just one letter apart. I don't know. There's moments to life where if the person is really honest, they don't know anything. It's pure unknown. And if they stay in that pure unknown, it's like I think there's a karma. You know how the person causes a known action and the effect is an unknown action? It's as if the causal position is accepted, if the causal position is unknown, the effect has to be known. What that means is it's this strange thing where I think this is how like my inner realms are filled with content, is because the self who I am to myself is unknown. Because I am unknown, because it is okay for the world to be unknown, it can be endlessly known. So you can say, um, the observer is pure knowledge, pure knowing. But what is being observed is how the knowledge is limited. or categorize. Something cool about mastery is that I would say no success happens without a journey. There has to be a journey, and those people who at times trying something new fail don't realize that's an invitation from the spirit of the craft. What that means is, I'll give you an example. In my youth, I've experienced like I was a bit foolish and naive, and because of that, I experienced various embarrassing moments. Moments where my self worth went from being full to suddenly being super like empty. You know, I would say little did I realize the silence, the karmic quarantine that I felt I was in, the beginning of my life. I would say silence was the invitation for me to speak. It was moments in life where feeling the absence of something that the person intuitively knows there is there, and I don't know. Sometimes in life, you just have to pull the string. You have to trust the signals that this antenna spontaneously receives. What that means, it's similar to being on a battlefield. If there's an explosion, you suddenly consider it, you notice it. That's the first thing. That means if a person was suddenly in a battlefield, imagine you just opened your eyes and you were in a battlefield and everybody was running around and everybody was like fighting and killing each other. The first step would be to observe the battlefield. That means if there was an endless war, rather than endlessly fighting in that war, the task would be to go on some mountain or go on some higher ground and see the whole field, see what's going on. What is this endless war? That means finding enough shelter to see what the strategy is. That means it's like there's, in a strange way, it's like hope is not enough. Hope literally means laziness. Hope means laziness. I mean, if it's like an inevitable condition, like I'm not talking about like outer realm physical, like hospitals or whatever. I'm saying like hope in regards to action, in regards to like I hope things work out. Like that hope is laziness. The person can actually work things out. It is a cool thing to wonder about yourself as a program and try to wonder how this program was written. Sometimes I've gone into nature, closed my eyes, in my inner realms, tried to scroll over or fly over my own memories. That means imagine you could remember what happened to you, I don't know, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. And imagine you suddenly see all of these events, but in your inner realms, when I say I'm flying through different memories, I would say it's literally changing eyes. I have some memories of my own self that are not in my from my eyes. That means technically, if we consider our memories, there should be only we should not see ourself in our memories, unless you're looking at a mirror and that's the memory. I mean, but there has been times that it seems like I experienced something first person, but the mind remembered it third person. I would sit in nature, close my eyes, and wonder why I had these memories. Why my memories were these memories. You don't know how many times I've just stared at my mind like, what is this? What is this just being here on a rock in the middle of nowhere? You know? Because the ultimate question isn't being asked, people are accepting the small. There's a quote from Attar I'm going to read for the audience. Attar is a Sufi mystic poet from Nishapur. He says, there we go. Attar says, the home we seek is in eternity. The truth we seek is like a shoreless sea, of which your paradise is but a drop. This ocean can be yours. Why should you stop, beguiled by dreams of evanescent dew? The secrets of the sun are yours, but you content yourself with motes trapped in its beams. Turn to what truly lives, reject what seems. Which matters more, the body or the soul? Be whole, desire and journey to the whole. And guys, there's this line where he says, "This ocean can be yours. Why should you stop? Why should you stop beguiled by dreams of evanescent dew?" And then, actually, the line before he says, "The truth we seek is like a shoreless sea, of which your paradise is but a drop." As if the human brain cannot contain the whole universe to give it a sort of ultimate truth. Therefore, the human brain's ideological container has to adjust to the vastness. What that means is the drop has to realize it's in the shoreless sea, or it will endlessly be a drop. Wondering why paradise is so far away. Wondering why evaporation is a sort of judgment. And whoever's listening, do you feel our species has noticed truth is like a shoreless sea, or are we fighting over it? We are fighting over truth, masked by language. Do you know what it is? It's pretty much like, imagine a room filled with mascots, like football mascots. And these mascots, the head of the mascot doesn't have eye holes in it. So the person can't see, and it's a bunch of people in these mascot costumes, animal costumes, just hitting each other, not realizing where they're going. You see, back in the day when a person entered a room and they had top hats, the person would take off the hat. It was a sign of respect, you know? Now we should, when we find new moments, we should take off our thought, our belief. And you can put on your hat back. You know, the whole thing is that we want to build a secular outer realm, and the inner realms can be whatever. You know? Because from one angle, we're like, all right, we see reality, but why do we have the word imagination? Like, why does that word exist? As if there's some unknown uh, additional phenomena going on here that the species has no clue. You know, right now there's something called the hard problem of consciousness. Why are we conscious of what we're conscious? Because we want our truths to fit with information. The more we look similar to a certain form, we are defined by it. Let's say even if a person wants something, let's say the person's like, they ask the person, what do you want for Christmas? You know? And the young child says, I want Santa to give me the ultimate truth of the universe, of all existence. And Santa's like, okay, kid, I can't build that. Santa's like, here's a cookie instead. I'll, t- I'll tell you what it is that that's the cool thing about truth. It transcends itself. The questioner breaks before the answer can be found. That means if the answer is collective, and the individual questioner will forever not see it. If I choose to see this moment as the only truth, all other moments are rendered void. You know, guys, I did something. This is something I'm very proud of. I did a test, just a personal, I would say, mystical experiment. I was just lying down on my bed and I tried to do something. I put my hands, so my face is like in the pillow, and my hands are like, okay, I don't know how to say this, but pretty much I was moving two of my fingers at the same beat. Let's say if somebody wanted to try this out, you would move two of your fingers at the same beat. Like right now, I'm moving both fingers, like both index fingers from the hand, right? Then I tried doing something where I tried to keep this going, where the both hands, both fingers are going at the same rhythm. Then I tried with my right hand to add like a different rhythm. And you see the attention can focus on one. Either both hands suddenly go solo, and of course people are wired differently, but at least in my experience there was this thing where the attention goes, the whole system shifts to that. That means if I wanted to go by the pace of my left index finger, and let's say the pace of my right index finger tapping on the table was different, if I want to separate them at the same time, I look at my right index finger, the left one instantly follows the right. I look at my left index finger, the pace, I want to try to keep that pace while moving the other one, both hands follow the left pace. So what it is it's like attention, imagine is this invisible sphere, this small, okay, whatever, let's give it a color. Imagine it's like this blue glowing sphere, and wherever this blue glowing sphere is going, all manifestation is chasing it. That means I want you to imagine like there's glowing sphere hovering, let's say, a couple meters from the surface of the earth, and this glowing sphere is just rolling over the planet, even though it's just hovering over the planet. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine this, and everything in manifestation is like chasing this sphere. And I would say that's how the attention is. The attention is the finger of the commander pointing forth. And the whole intelligence moves in accordance to it. So if you study your attention, I will tell you, your attention can create energy. And you know why? Because everything is energy. Have we forgotten? So I would like to go into a quote tunnel. For those who are new, a quote tunnel is a segment of these shows where I pretty much dive into, I read a bunch of quotes from a certain person in history or a theme. So for tonight's quote tunnel, it's Shri Annamalai Swami. And this man is a yogi, like old school yogi. He says, "When I say meditate on the self, I am asking you to be the self, not think about it. Be aware of what remains when thoughts stop. Be aware of the consciousness that is the origin of all your thoughts. Be that consciousness. Feel that this is what you really are. If you do this, you're meditating on the self. But if you cannot stabilize in that consciousness because your vasanas are too strong and too addictive, it is beneficial to hold on to thought. I am the self. I am everything. If you meditate in this way, you will not be cooperating with the vasanas. Vasanas are like desires that are blocking your self-awareness. If you don't cooperate with them, sooner or later they're bound to leave you. If this method doesn't appeal to you, then just watch the mind with full attention. Whenever the mind wanders, become aware of it. See how thoughts connect with each other, and watch how this ghost called mind catches hold of all your thoughts, saying, 'This is my thought.' Watch the ways of the mind without identifying them in any way. If you give your mind your full, detached attention, you begin to understand the futility of all mental activities. Watch the mind wandering here and there, seeking out useless and unnecessary things or ideas, which will ultimately only create misery for itself. Watching the mind gives us a knowledge of its inner processes. It gives us an incentive to stay detached from all our thoughts. Ultimately, if we try hard enough, it gives us the ability to remain as consciousness, unaffected by transient thoughts." Tayu Manuvar, a Tamil saint whom Bhagavan often quoted, wrote in one of his poems, "My guru merely told me that I am consciousness. Having heard this, I held on to consciousness. What he told me was just one sentence, but I cannot describe the bliss I attained from holding on to that one simple sentence. Through that one sentence, I attained a peace and a happiness that can never be explained in words." So in one verse, this guy realized the universe. See, guys, it can be done in one verse. It's like, how long does it take to get enlightened? How long does it take to read a sentence? There is more, guys. Hold on. Let me find a better website. This website had like 3 quotes only. While there are still stray thoughts which attract or evade your attention, the thought will always be directing his attention outwards rather than inwards. The purpose of self-inquiry is to make the thought move inwards, towards the self. This will happen automatically as soon as you cease to be interested in any of your rising thoughts. Annamalai Swami says this surrender will only take place when the thought has ceased to identify with rising thoughts. Annamalai Swami says when you have eradicated all thoughts except for the thinker himself by ceaseless inquiry or by refusing to give them any attention, the thought sinks into the heart and surrenders, leaving behind it only an awareness of consciousness. Annamalai Swami says when you have... Oh no, that's the same quote. Hold on. Annamalai Swami says, in the fort of the mind, the occupants, which are thoughts, need a thinker to pay attention to them and indulge in them. If the thinker withholds his attention from rising thoughts or challenges them before they have a chance to develop, the thoughts will all die of starvation. Wow. Annamalai Swami says, seal off the entrances and the exits to the mind by not reacting to rising thoughts or sense impressions. Don't let new ideas, judgments, likes, dislikes, etc. enter the mind, and don't let rising thoughts flourish and escape your attention. When you have sealed off the mind in this way, challenge each emerging thought as it appears by asking, where have you come from? Or who is this, who is the person who is having this thought? You know, guys, Annamalai Swami's strategy is pretty much like when you have a thought, you're like, yo, how did this thought get here? Oh my God. It's like, who allowed this thought here? You know, it's like like a wild Pokemon appeared. You catch it with conscious attention, you know? Annamalai Swami says you divide your life up into different activities. I am eating, I am meditating, I am working, etc. If you have ideas like those, you're still identifying with the body. Get rid of all these and replace them with the single thought, I am the self. Hold on to that idea and don't let go. Guys, there is this thing. I mean, there's this man named Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. He had the same thing in India. This guy was a poor tobacco salesman in like the slums of India, and he goes and sees this enlightened guru that just looks at him and says, "Study your attention, study yourself," you know. And one sentence again, just like Annamalai Swami, do you know? And Sri Nisargadatta, this tobacco salesman, all that he does every moment in whatever he's doing, he's wondering what is doing this. The whole point is, I am the self. You are slamming your head with language until you get it, that you're not language. It's an instant away, the Pure Lands. But language, it needs to hold on to something. You see, just like how people, want to survive, I would say ideas want to survive through the attention of people. If we truly attain multidimensional maturity as a species, then we can wonder about collective ways of living that transcend ideological identity. And the great question comes, should the future be made for robots or be made for a natural being? That's the whole thing. If the future is unnatural and it causes suffering to us being a natural being, we're just torturing ourselves for no reason, you know? In the future, if things become too, if nature is forgotten. You know, I would tell you one of the most dangerous things, it's a sign of a civilization, it's like a warning sign for a civilization, is when children stop climbing trees. When children of the future generation stop climbing trees, that means there has been a disengagement with the unknown experience of physically living. So I would say this is universal. In other, anytime nature is dismissed, man has missed the truth in the mirror, the truth right in front of him. You know, in Vedic thought, in the Puranas, there's a story of this yogi, for example. This yogi was sitting, meditating in samadhi, trying to be in this ultimate state of mind before death comes, you know? And so, right before death came, this man sees a deer, like a pregnant deer, jump. Or, sorry, the actual story is there's this yogi meditating. He sees a deer running away from a tiger, this pregnant deer, and somehow the pregnant deer gives birth in the middle of the river, and this yogi saves the baby deer. He can't save the gazelle, but he saves the baby deer, you know? And so he holds this baby deer, and what he does is the yogi is like he's taking care of it, kind of like as a friend, you know, like Castaway Wilson kind of situation, you know? And what happens is that he's sitting in his meditation, and the deer, this deer that he has taken care of, like actual deer, like the deer runs away, and right that moment where he's dying, he suddenly thinks of the thought, where is the deer? And he became a deer in the next life. But he becomes, as the Puranas say, he becomes a deer, but he has all his memories intact. What that means is it's like his body is inside a deer, but his mind is not the mind of a deer. The memories, the consciousness has access to memories that are not limited to the body embodied, the embodied form. So I wondered, okay, what would that mean? Would that mean that it could turn to plants? Let's say if you were an animal and you, I don't know, something messed up happened again karmically. Like, does that mean your consciousness could become a tree? And then from a tree becoming like a piece of grass, then from a piece of grass becoming even a mineral, you know? And I thought about this sort of evolution of consciousness, evolution of this boundless, infinite force that is everywhere, into different existential theatrical performances. We are the theater of nature. That is life, the theater of nature. Annamalai Swami says, you will not be able to reach the self and stay there without a prolonged, continuous effort. Each time you give up trying or get distracted, some of your previous effort goes to waste. At the same time, Annamalai Swami in the next quote says, don't worry about whether you're making progress or not. Just keep your attention on the self 24 hours a day. Meditation is not something that should be done in a particular position at a particular time. It is an awareness and an attitude that must persist through the day. To be effective, meditation must be continuous. You know what it is, Lars? It's like literally someone's like asking another person, hey, do you meditate? And the other person's like, I am meditation. You know? You know, for me personally, I have been meditating ever since I've been born. Ever since I entered existence, I've been meditating on the world and how it's been happening. One last quote. Annamalai Swami says, if you want to pay attention to a special area of danger, watch how the five senses operate. Learn to watch how the mind reacts to sense impressions. If you can stop the mind from reacting to sense impressions, you can eliminate a large number of your vasanas. Guys, just getting rid of desire doesn't mean there's completion. It doesn't, the person can't feel complete because the journey isn't over. You know, there is this thing that it's like we're on a roller coaster, a ride. That's pretty much what karma means. You're on a roller coaster. Now, if the person realizes the whole theme park is an illusion, whose karma? What justification of reality's outcome in a changing system? That means if we are changing beings, how have we been going along playing with this theater performance that we're just objects and subjects? It's like, oh, really? You know, I didn't realize my whole moment was just a subject or an object. You know, we have given thoughts too much power over us. And what that means is we have given language an ability to make the world absolute for us. This is the whole issue with dogmatism, whatever color it comes in. You know, whether it's secular or non-secular. I would say dogmatism pretty much means an ideology has become a wild barking dog. And what does that mean? That means the ideology cannot see outside of the way it's expressing to be a definition to itself. And the greatest ability, I would say, is to watch the moment. That is the one skill that in any moment of your life serves you. If you cultivate contentment through watching your whole moment of existence as if you're in a movie. But strangely, in the outer realms, you're not the director. The world and the laws of nature are at work. But in your inner realms, you are the director. You are the director of the film of your reality. And so the whole point is, it took us 4 billion years to be able to, 4 billion years to evolve to even notice this. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if we truly honored evolution, there should be incredible gratefulness, not like, you know, sadness of what can't be done, you know? Attention is an energetic expression. What that means is like, if you pay attention to inefficient ideas, your attention is technically, the candle wax is melting for that, you know? If the person pays attention to an efficient idea, then the candle wax will feel it is gaining more as a light than it's, I would say, than as the wax. So how would I show this? Like, your body is the wax, your mind is the candle flame. The purpose of the mind is to share the flame. The purpose of the wax is to just accept that it's wax and it's going to melt someday. You know, your outer realms, I don't know. There isn't too much glorification of the outer realms, you know. Like Superman, you know, that's the strange thing. That means Superman, this is one thing I think it wasn't made clear. You know, if Superman was immortal, in the sense of like, what was that girl's name? Lois Lane? Like, I'm just saying, like, if the psychology of the person is based on the content, and the content is the senses, that means this is, I would say, like, I mean, moving on from the previous point, but like, the senses, if they are the watches, how can we have senses? That means it's like, if the senses are the watcher, then how can we have the concept that we have senses? Who has the senses? That means, is there a position of intelligence prior to the sensory? You know, and I feel that question means really unknown. I think it's like we're remembering that the unknown is a sort of knowing to itself. That means that one person's, let's say person A and B are in the park. Person A's vision of the world is unknown to person B's vision of the world, the person B's inner realms. Now, if person A assumes person B is just a person in accordance to the world they see, technically they're never seeing person B, for example. What is looking out through the eyes? Is light uh, poetically pressing buttons on the brain? That means, are we light? Is our subjective realm, I mean, like, if you think about like the individualism of the person, it's based on the senses. The most visible, what we consider being in an observable universe, the content, the form, shape, and design of the universe have to do with the eyes. So there comes this question, like, are we the receiver of the senses, or are we the senses? If we are the senses, we don't exist. There's just a world happening here, and we're like an individual hallucination of nature, you know? But if there is an unknown variable that is more dynamic than a static interpretation of the moment, I would say either either paradise is in earth or earth is in paradise, I would say. Either mind is here first, unknown mind, unknown field of intelligence is here first, then there's stuff, there's the body, or there is stuff, then the opportunity for the mind. And it's all about separating space and intelligence. If we perceive space as intelligent, then we are the whole universe. And it's strange because I feel the word panpsychism, which is considering that everything has could potentially be conscious, we just don't know. You know, this like iced tea bottle could be like, you know, there could be some sort of consciousness to it, you know, maybe in another dimension or something, you know. But I'm saying like, but the whole notion of panpsychism is really everywhere has a mind, not just us being a part of everywhere having a mind, you know. So you can say, if the mind is not an object, what is it doing desiring objects? And I think it's just because of this initial idea that if we don't live as an object, we will cease to exist as a subject. And I think this is the main reason. It's a discrimination between what an object is and what a subject is. Because when I think about it, like, yeah, the body, it's transitory, it's temporary. But that person who's been blowing the cake, that viewing intelligence from the eyes that has been blowing the candle cake and saying, my birthday, do you know? That my is beyond birth and death. The mind can't die. It's like, how can space break? Objects are, you can say, there needs to be a form, there needs to be a shape to be born, and in some sense to break, you know, to die. But if there is no form, if the person from the beginning realizes, whoa, I've been aware of form, but how is the awareness of form? And it can't be. But we are like a laser beam of attention. I would say studying the attention is the secret to. It is pretty much, if there is a secret in this universe, it is where your attention is. Uh, uh, it's where your attention is standing. The secret is behind your eyes. Because behind your eyes, the eyes have no owner. The inseparability of energy and consciousness, the inseparability of body present in a field of mind. And when the being realizes they're that field, imagine with just a movement of your finger, your attention could translate every form, every memory into an instant permission of geometrical movement that is autonomous. The mind is the language generator. Intelligence is just happening, and a part of that happening is we using language to figure things out. You know, it's as if like the person, you know, asked one person, he's like, what do you believe in? And the person's like, I believe in pure materialism. And the person's like, that's one way to say it, you know. And then the person goes and asks somebody else, what do you believe in? And the other person's like, pure materialism. And you're like, that's one way to say it. And then you realize everything is just a way. Attar says, he who would know the secret of both worlds will find the secret of them both is love. Ah. Attar says, if the eye of the heart is open, in each atom there will be 100 secrets. Okay, this was the quote. I mean, honestly, how can we know anything outside of ourselves? How can we know anything if we don't know who we are? You know, that means it's like we have to define the self, then define relationships to this self. Multidimensional tolerance, multidimensional respect. Pretty much all these values, we just put the word multidimensional in front of it, and that's how an advanced civilization comes about. We're not ignoring the different ways the world can move. Attar says, thou all creation art, all we behold but thou. The soul within the body lies concealed, and thou dost hide thyself within the soul. O soul in soul, mystery in mystery hid, before all were thou, and are more than all. Ibn Arabi says, it is he who is revealed in every face, sought in every sign, gazed upon by every eye, worshipped in every object of worship, and pursued in the unseen and the visible. Not a single one of his creatures can fail to find him in its primordial original nature. I think he's referring to God. See, that means the creature cannot avoid the where it's set. Attar says one of the created phenomena is the dream. Behold how many secrets are deposited therein, how many wisdoms treasured up, how many worlds concealed. Attar says, in the dead of night, a Sufi began to weep. He said, this world is like a closed coffin in which we are shut, and in which through our ignorance we spend our lives in folly and desolation. When death comes to open the lid of the oh, okay, where's the rest of the poem? Hold on, guys, I gotta find it. Okay, I found the full passage here. It says, "In the dead of night, a Sufi began to weep. He said, 'This world is like a closed coffin in which we're shut, and in which, through our ignorance, we spend our lives in folly and desolation. When death comes to open the lid of the coffin, each one who has wings will fly off to eternity, but those without will remain locked in the coffin. So, my friends, before the lid of this coffin is taken off, do all do all you can to become a bird of the way to God. Do all you can to develop your wings and your feathers." Of course, guys, keep in mind this wisdom from Sufism is coming from 700 years ago. You know, Attar says, "From each love demands a mystic silence. What do all seek so earnestly? This love. Love is the subject of their innermost thoughts. In love no longer thou in quotations and I in quotations exist. For self has passed away in the beloved. Now will I draw aside the veil from love, and in the temple of mine innermost soul behold the friend, incomparable love. He who would know the secret of both worlds will find that the secret of them both is love." Okay, there we go. So that's the end of that. Attar says, "A young man came to Junaid and wished to become his student. He said, you have been recommended as an expert on pearls." So in the Sufi tradition, the concept, the metaphor of the pearl was enlightenment, you know. So here it says, "You have been recommended as an expert on pearls of wisdom. Please give me one or sell it to me." Junaid replied, "You could not afford the price if I sold it, and if I gave you one for nothing, you will not realize its value. You must do as I have done. Dive into the sea and wait patiently until you obtain your pearl." That's what's up, guys. You know, you got to go into the unknown sea and be patient, and through that patience, the mind can hold properly. That's what I'm saying. This literally, for me, something like this was like I was very preferenceless. I went in nature, I was sitting on a rock, and then I just wondered, okay, what's looking through my eyes? And I asked myself this question, who am I? And my mind generated an answer. Then I asked the question again, another answer. Then I'm like, how can I be two responses to my own mind when I ask myself, who am I? So I realized I am not thought instantly. I realize I have never been a thought, and everybody who has called my name has thought I am my name. I am just a story, has never seen me. Because I have never seen myself, because the thoughts could change. Because if we are a character in a story, you're already in a karmic situation. The moment you're a self in a world, it's like karma is the only road. Karma is the vehicle. This world is really rent a karma kind of situation, where in modes of manifestation, intelligence arises with the potential to find rivers of collective integrative vision, the global humanity, you know. Eventually it will come, you know. I mean, like, we can just sit back and just hope that the future is gonna, make the right moves. But the whole thing is, it's like anything the person is holding back in regards to advancing something, building something, designing something, it would be like you would suddenly realize, okay, 1,000 years from now, nobody's going to care about whatever we think now. So if the person wants to be judged by the time, by history, they can. By the moment in history they're born in, you can be judged by that, you know? But if you were to see further ahead, you would see inevitably what is chaotic now is going to become ordered in the future. Back in the day, if you didn't have a hat on, like, people didn't treat you like a human being. you know, like a top hat. You know, imagine the 1700s or something. People would be like, put your hat back on. You know, they would want, like, that would be the norm of the time. So if anybody can perceive that what is normal is just a one dot on this endless line that has been being drawn from the beginning of time, a liberation of the individual ego through the planetary ego. The eyes will endlessly try to find the eyes, and in trying, you, in some sense, are not there. That means, I don't know where I where I heard this from, but it was like this idea, like the person should never do something incompletely. Let's say if you're eating, or let's say building something. That means you don't stop until the maxed out effort has been done, and then you stop. And that's really, I find how life works, where the person puts an effort until life makes them sincere. And if you know to be sincere before implementing the effort, the hard work doesn't go to waste. Your local yogi would most likely agree. If the person wants to be final words. Be so many steps ahead that being one step ahead is like nothing. Nothing for you. It's effortless. Because that's really the value of the future. It's as if like the past causes the suffering, the present receives it, the future is what in some sense can satisfy it. Outer realm suffering. I mean, that means it's like we have minds to engage the world. And as we engage the world over some time, the inseparability of self and world happens when there's like a, collective symbiosis where man and nature are no longer at war, whether in the inner realms or outer realms. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful in some way. Much blessings and namaste.